Hi, my name is Leontine Cohen-Pauka. I'm a licensed tour guide in Israel and France, and I prepared a small series of movies. The series is called In the Footsteps of. In each little movie I develop a theme, an event, a personality. This time it's In the Footsteps of Hannah Gershon. Enjoy! Hannah Gershon is my 83-year-old neighbor. She has lived an extraordinary life, traveling all over the world from the age of 1 until today. Why did she cross the ocean at the age of 3? What made her decide to move from the United States to Israel at the age of 82? How come the Second World War and anti-Semitism led her from Europe to Brazil, to the United States and then to Israel? Let's discover Hannah's life. Hannah was born in 1937 in Riga, the capital of the Baltic state Latvia. Her parents, Leib and Jakobina Feigensen, lived a quiet life among their family. Her father was a trader in flax. Until 1941, when the Germans occupied Latvia, 90,000 Jews lived there. When Hannah was still a little baby, her father decided that with the growing anti-Semitism it was better to leave Latvia. The family left for Brussels, where Hannah's little sister was born. But after a year, in 1938, the family moved back to Riga. 1 year later, Hannah's father, again, felt it was really better to get out of Latvia. But her mother couldn't believe that the well-educated Germans could harm them and thought her husband was too alarmist. She was now pregnant of their third baby. They decided that Hannah's father would travel to Sweden to prepare a new house for his family in case it turned out he was right. This way, it would be easier for his family to join him if the situation became more dangerous. But after a while, Hannah's mother understood that her husband was right. The borders of Latvia had closed. She managed to get a pass that allowed her to leave Latvia during a 24-hour slot to consult with a specialist in Sweden due to her condition. She said goodbye to her family, boarded a ship with her 2 little daughters, but on the way to Sweden, the ship was taken over by the Germans and was sent back to Latvia. While on the ship, Hannah's mother was raped by a German officer. Once she got back to Latvia, she managed again to get a 24-hour permit, and thank God, the second time the ship sailed her and her 2 little girls safely to Sweden, where her husband was waiting for her. In Sweden, she had her third daughter. They lived 2 years in Stockholm, but the Swedish authorities didn't want to give Hannah's father a work permit, so the family had to move again. It was decided they would try to go to Canada. Hannah's father applied for a visa at the Canadian embassy, but his request was refused. While he was there, the Brazilian ambassador approached him, saying that Brazil was ready to give him a visa. So, in 1940, the family boarded a ship and sailed to Brazil. A year later, Germany started occupying Latvia. Just before their invasion, about 20,000 of the 90,000 Jews managed to flee from Latvia. The local population in Latvia actively helped the Germans killing the Latvian Jews. By the end of 1941, only 9,000 out of the 70,000 Jews that had remained in Latvia were still alive. About half of them were forced to move to the ghetto that the Germans had established. Hannah's relatives in Latvia didn't manage to leave, and after the war the news came that they were all murdered in the ghetto of Riga. When the war was finished, only 200 Jews in Latvia were still alive. But we go back to 1940. The Feigensen family is sailing to Brazil. Upon arrival, the family was told their visa had expired. Hannah's father was allowed to leave the ship to look for a solution, but he had to leave his wife and children behind. Thanks to the help of Latvian Jews that had arrived before them in Brazil, he managed to get his family off the ship. The family settled close to the port in a boarding house because the 3 little girls were very sick. On the ship they had contracted dysentery. But the 3 of them got better and the family moved to Sao Paulo. In Sao Paulo, they settled in a house with a large garden, where Hannah loved to play all day long. Their neighbors had a parrot. He learned to say her name, as her mother was always calling her while she was playing in the garden. At home, they spoke Portuguese, and until today, Hannah wonders in what language they spoke before arriving in Brazil. She can't recall. It was probably German, as that is what Latvian Jews spoke with each other before the war. In Sao Paulo, her parents had 2 other children, a boy and a girl. Hannah remembers the circumcision of her brother because of the delicious teigelach that were served. Teigelach is a Jewish pastry boiled in honey syrup. Until today, she loves it and makes it herself. In Brazil, her father tried to grow flax, but he wasn't successful, so he became a car dealer. It is in Sao Paulo that Hannah went to school for the first time. Hannah loved school, and she loved even more the French language. So she signed up for after-school classes of French, and this is how she ended up going to a French high school, first in London, then in New York. In New York, she lived in Manhattan in a hotel for women. After she finished high school, she met her husband-to-be, Murray Gershon. Murray was 14 years older than Hannah. He was a rabbi. Her parents were opposed to the marriage, but Hannah had made up her mind. She married Murray and they settled in Brooklyn. This is Murray. The couple had 4 children, 3 boys and a girl. After her youngest child was old enough, Hannah started working as a French and Spanish teacher in a public school. She loved teaching, she loved her students, and they loved her back. Until today, she is still in contact with some of them. But the marriage was not a happy one. Hannah and Murray remained married for 34 years. It took Hannah that long to get over her pride and stubbornness to admit that her parents had been right about her choice to marry Murray. After her father died, Hannah inherited some money. She decided to help build a synagogue in Israel. It was named after her parents. Today, you can visit the Feigensen synagogue in Beit Shemesh. When Hannah retired from teaching, she started a new life. She went traveling all over the world, alone and with a good friend, and she became also a skilled artist. At the age of 82, one of her sons died. Also, at the age of 82, she decided to leave her house and friends in the United States, and she moved to Jerusalem. At the age of 82, she started a new life here. She moved into my neighborhood in Jerusalem, Katamon, and managed to make new friends, like me, for example. But don't think she sits at home waiting for me to call her. She is extremely busy with her art, with learning Hebrew, and with going to her sport lessons. She continues to travel, her big passion. During the past 8 weeks, because of COVID-19, Hannah had to stay inside her home and she was isolated. But I didn't hear her complain once. She kept herself very busy and she even made hikes in her apartment to stay fit. You probably noticed that Hannah has become an Orthodox Jew. She respects the Jewish religious laws scrupulously. She is also the perfect example that an Orthodox Jewish woman can fulfill all her dreams. Contrary to what people sometimes think, Orthodoxy does not necessarily need to be in the way of a free-spirited person. This was the story of Hannah, who, because of fate and destiny, traveled the whole world and went from being a refugee to becoming a French student, a rabbi's wife, a teacher, an adventurer, and a new Israeli immigrant. I hope you enjoyed this movie. I will be back next week with a fascinating historical item. If you want to contact me, you can find me on Facebook under Private Guide Jerusalem Leontine Cohen. Private Guide Jerusalem Leontine Cohen. And a big thank you to Shlomo Cohen, my editor. See you next week.